folks, welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick, and we're here to talk about, I have a short today, about the Ravens' playoff performance historically. And here, joining me to talk about this is Craig Tanio. Craig, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ken. Glad to be on the show.
And great to have you. Always appreciate people coming forward with their short topics. Now, generally speaking, we're going to talk today about playoff overperformance and underperformance. A lot of this has to do with Ravens history. The Ravens obviously have a very bad taste in their mouth, the Ravens fans in particular, because only about 10 players left from that 2019 team have a bad taste left from 2019. But tell us how you like to set this up.
Well, I think that, the playoffs are always a great time for fandom. We should be happy that the Ravens are in. But at the end of the day, there's only one fan base that's happy at the end. And then unlike the regular season, where I think that consistent, outstanding performance gets you a great record, the playoffs are very much like the NCAA tournament, high variance. And so you can be playing great and have dramatic underperformance. And then you may be playing just okay during the season and have a, great streak at the very end and win the Super Bowl. And so it's that kind of variance that really makes this exciting theater. And, I think the whole fan base is ready to go next week in the playoffs.
So that 2012 team in particular won 3 games as an underdog during that playoffs. They did win at home against the Colts as a favorite, and then twice in a row as, I believe, a 9-point dog each time. The first time at they might not have been quite that at New England. They might have been like a 7-point dog, but a 9-point dog in Denver during the Mile High Miracle game. And then it's about a 4-point dog in the Super Bowl, as I recall it, against San Francisco.
Yeah, and that team was quite interesting within the, let's call it the Flacco era, in that when you look at DVOA, that team was actually the worst ranked on DVOA of any of the teams that made it to the playoffs. And even the team the year before that made it to the championship and lost on the the Cundiff missed field goal, that was number 8 in terms of DVOA. So those teams historically, overperformed in the playoffs. And what's, quite interesting, I think, about the Ravens is that their playoff record is number 4 in the NFL overall. The only teams that are better were the 49ers, the Packers, and the Patriots. But when you look at home game their win-loss records and the road win-loss records, the Patriots, 49ers, and Packers don't have a winning road record. The Ravens are the only team in the top 4 that have a winning record on the road.
Does anyone else in the entire NFL have a winning road playoff record?
That's a great question, Ken. I don't know the answer. Yeah. I downloaded Pro Football Reference spreadsheets to look at it, and so there wasn't an easy way that I knew of on the databases to see that. But I think it's unlikely. But because what was pretty striking is that those teams usually had about a 2-to-1 win-loss record on average at home, and then their road games were about the same. And so the Ravens are really in the other position, where their road record is a winning record, but home we're one winning game away from getting to 500. So we still have a losing record at home. And what I thought was interesting in the last 20 years is most of those home games losses have come when the team has actually been quite good in the regular season too. So it's, I think the fan base has good reason to be on pins and needles, but I have a lot of confidence that we'll get to the Super Bowl this year.
Okay. Myself as well. I think a lot of people would say this team is better suited to deal with adversity and adapt as necessary than the 2019 team was even.
Yeah, I think that the defense is certainly better. And, the team has been historically good in terms of DVOA with, I think, 4 games over 100. And that record is, I think, puts them in the top 4 in the, since they've been keeping those statistics. And so that team this year has been consistently good.
Is there when you look at individual areas of performance, what would you take us through?
Well, I think that what's quite interesting, and from the fan base, and if you look at our playoff performance through starting in 2000, we've really kind of had some interesting eras of overperformance and underperformance. So obviously, we started off with a bang in 2000, where the first time that the team made it to the playoffs in Festivus, we made it all the way to the Super Bowl. Yep. And that team was fourth in the league at that year in DVOA. But we all remember that the offense could barely score a touchdown a number of games in a row, and so that was overperformance. And then the next year, after we didn't keep Dilfer and went over to Gerbeck, we were 12th in the league and still were able to beat the Steelers in the wild card and had overperformance. But after those two seasons in Billick, we really did not perform well at all in the playoffs with Billick as a coach. We had Anthony Wright in 2003, and we did not win the wild card. I think Anderson made a field goal with 30 seconds left, the Titans. And then the crushing loss for me, I can remember that in 2006, was we were number 2 in the league in DVOA, and we could not even score a touchdown at home. And so I think it was a 15-6 loss against the Colts.
That was an awful game.
Yeah.
I think most Ravens fans would put that in the 2 worst games of their life. Most fans who've lived through the entire history of the franchise, let's put it that way. And you and I think, both have, judging by our hair colors and, in my case, lack of hair. We've been around since the beginning, and it's very, very clear that the 2006 and the 2019 games were the worst ever.
Yeah, and I think it's there's such low numbers that there's real no true correlation, but those games, just both of those teams were so good in the regular season. That was the 2006. That was the first time that we had, an over average quarterback. And even though McNair was old, he was still playing reasonably well. And the team had been performing, so well to have that just come to a screeching halt. So I think almost the fan base has been conditioned to expect success when you're the underdog, and to really worry about failure when you're favorite. And so this is going to be the year that we have to learn to be the favorite and win as the favorite.
I have a little story about that 2006 game that I'm not going to name names because the people remain innocent. But a young lady at work told me about going to that 2006 game, and she was tailgating. Apparently got very drunk before the game ever began. Her boyfriend took her into the game, and at some point she had to go to the bathroom, and she was in no condition to get herself to the bathroom. And so he had to pay some woman $20 to take her into the bathroom and go there. And she came out like 5 or 10 minutes later and said, "Here's your money back. It's not worth it." and so anyway, I was told this story, and a woman obviously very extroverted to be able to even tell the story. After the fact, it'd be the kind of thing that I'd be very embarrassed about. But I thought about it since, and I'm thinking she's one of the lucky ones that she didn't really have to remember that game in the way that we do for all of the horror of it.
Well, the thing I remember that I think the most was, I had the season tickets up in the rafters, sort of 526, and that after the game, you just usually a fair amount of noise, just getting out. The stadium was just deathly quiet. Everybody coming out, people had that look that they could not believe what they had just seen, if you will. And after that, didn't matter really what happened. I think that was the game that why Billick ultimately did not keep his job the year later. So
to go back to your early point about the Ravens and their road playoff success, they played 28 total playoff games, and 21 of those have been on the road. Mm-hmm. In those games, they're 13-8. Okay, mm-hmm. The Ravens have by far the best record in NFL history on the road, that 13-8. The next best of any team with at least four wins is 12-13 by the Patriots. So the only team with a winning record. This is I kind of remembered this was the case, but Joe Flacco, of course, is one of the big reasons for that. He's going to get a chance to play this weekend. We assume later today, unless there's another cancellation. I don't anticipate that's happening, but Joe Flacco will get a chance to play later today and get another road playoff win, which I think would make him number one. Believe he's currently tied with Brady in road playoff wins.
Well, I think that, I'm curious how that source treated the away games, because it may be that they were counting the neutral game at the Super Bowl as an away game.
Nope.
Oh, it was. Okay, so it's all true away. It's funny because I think we always attribute team success to the quarterback, and I still tend to think of these as really being, team statistics, not quarterback statistics around the narrative. But it does feel like it's going to be destiny if the Browns come and play the Ravens, and you do get these two narratives going after each other. Because when you kind of double clicks Flacco's stats, the last few games, it's been terrific how he's playing compared to when he was at the Jets. But it is, still the interceptions are still high, and the yards are high. But I still feel quite confident that we would match up very well against the Browns.
Yeah, I would too. I think it'd be a potentially very good matchup for the Ravens. If
you found a $100 bill on the ground, you wouldn't walk past it. So don't pass up a chance at easy cash with MyBookie. MyBookie has the biggest online selection of odds and contests to fill all your sports betting needs, anytime, anywhere. So you can turn that sports knowledge into cash in your wallet. Bet on the NFL, college bowl games, or play for your share of big cash prizes in the weekly blackjack tournaments. And if you've been waiting for the right time to get in on the action, that time is now. Make your winning move today. Sign up at MyBookie and use the promo code RAVENS to claim your deposit match, redeemable up to $1,000. Again, that's promo code RAVENS to claim your bonus. Experience the thrill of sports betting right from the comfort of your home. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
Still not eager to face them because I think the place where the Ravens don't match up well is on the defensive side, where Garrett and Smith can wreak havoc against the Ravens tackles. Yeah. And we've already seen that happen in multiple games this year where the Browns and Steelers are two of the teams that have combined for 3 of the 4 Ravens losses.
Yeah, and I thought the best team that we would have would be if the Steelers were playing on Sunday. I thought they had a puncher's chance of beating the Bills if there was a foot of snow and just keeping it close. But we'll see what happens on Monday. I think the Bills just improved their odds by having the game moved to Monday.
I agree. I think that takes advantages away from Buffalo to have a high wind game in particular. They are very used to playing in those conditions. I mean, they've done it a lot of times over the years. So that would be something. But I think also that Pittsburgh has a great team of tackle breaking running backs that could give them trouble. And I really would relish the opportunity to play on a 5-day week for Pittsburgh with the Ravens having 2 weeks off kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about Flacco is that with, the narrative with January Joe was that, he did carry the team. But when you look at the film on 2008 and 2009, you kind of see the team carrying Flacco and just not getting in the way, which was terrific as a rookie and second year. That's and then obviously he caught on fire in 2012.
I think he started his career something like 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions in his first couple of years. In that 2009 game at New England where they ran the ball 52 times and kicked the crap out of New England up there, he only threw 10 passes in that game. He was 4 of 10. Mm-hmm. That day. So it's one of the really odd statistical lines, but they were happy to just keep mashing them. And, it was one of the really nice things about that game was to go out listening to talk radio and whatnot, and hearing the Patriots fans complain about just what a lack of physicality there was on their team, that they couldn't stand up to this Ravens team. So it's good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the big question here is in the with the relative underperformance the last 4 or 5 years with Lamar and Harbaugh is is there what's the real driver of that? Obviously, it's really hard to know, but it feels like the team has done as good a job as possible to kind of self-diagnose and try to improve the issues that emerge in some of these games. And the challenge with some of these high variance issues is sometimes the ball just bounces the other way.
Yep. They certainly, that high leverage plays was a factor, certainly in the 2019 game. And it was obviously in the 2006 game as well. People don't remember necessarily the interception right before halftime. Reed had 2 picks in the game, and I believe on the second one, but I can't remember if it's the first or the second. He flipped the ball back in bounds to McAllister before he touched down out of bounds, and it was ruled down. And there's nothing once they blow the whistle, they can't unblow the whistle. So they had to just spot the ball there. That really cost the Ravens, who, justifiably, with the lousy offense they fielded in the 2006 season, really needed to play fast break defense when they had a chance.
Yeah, and I think I forget the linebacker in the Colts. He was just very faster, but that the Colts had just really changed their style of defense, and I think in November and December, and I think they really caught us unprepared for the type of defense that they were playing. So
yeah, I agree entirely. And they knew that team knew they were light. And I'm trying to remember, were they the bracket? Maybe is that who we're talking about, or was it one of the others?
I think it was one of the others. Yeah.
Okay, let me see who else was on that 2006 Indianapolis team. Gilbert Gardner. That's not it. I'm pretty sure. Rob Morris, Cato June, maybe. No, I mean he wasn't all that good, but yeah, I don't know who else it would have been, honestly.
It might have been Robert. Yeah, it could have been Robert.
Rob Mathis is an edge, yeah. So he was terrific. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a lot of blitzing to get in the backfield because they didn't want the Ravens to set up all their combination blocks and whatnot, which they did a good job of doing, generally speaking, in the Jamal years. But that was a frustrating game. I've kind of blocked it out in a lot of ways in terms of what the experience was, and it was good game from the sense that they kept Manning out of the end zone too. It's just a ugly finish to that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because with Lamar, people put certain narratives and certain boxes around him, but I think for me the best sports analogy to Lamar is actually going out of football and looking at Magic Johnson. Because I think Lamar is somebody who's just has brought a whole different set of skills to the position, and Magic did at the point guard position. And you kind of have those analogies where Magic ran into the Celtics and after the first year of winning and just couldn't bust through. And you can just see that in Lamar, where he's really tried, certainly in his conversations with the press, is really emphasizing the mental game. And I think this is all what needs to happen at this point. It feels like the quality of the play and the quality of the coordinators and coaching is great this year, but it's going to really just be that focus that's needed. And I think the team is acting quite a bit different this round than it is in 2019 in terms of taking the job seriously.
I hope you're right about that. And I think Roquan Smith really brings that to the team in spades on the defense. And effectively, he holds that entire defense accountable for focus. And I think some of that is wearing off on the offense as well. They're not completely different units. I mean, they really do some things together and understand each other and the way they play. And, in some ways want to take the best of what each is doing. But I would agree with that. And I think Lamar, there's something that tells me that allowing Lamar to feel comfortable and in the moment is also a good thing. But I think, there's something that comes with that hasn't worked in the 18 or 19 playoffs. 18, the team was it was extremely dependent on whatever Lamar could do with his legs. Lamar, the passer, really hadn't arrived yet until the next year. And of course, the Chargers knew exactly how to take advantage of that by putting 7 defensive backs on the field for most of the game. In the next year, the read option had come to life. Lamar had his MVP season, but they were still highly dependent on pistol reads and using Lamar to the outside. And Tennessee had a way to deal with that. And it was very unfortunate that they did a pretty good job of holding Lamar early in that game. The Ravens got behind in the game on some high leverage plays, and then they as they tried to catch up, they took bigger and bigger gambles to do so. And even though they ran the most plays they ever have in team history, they weren't able to come back in the game. So it's not an easy game to pin on Lamar specifically, but the 0 for 4 on fourth down. But I'm not sure if they were 0 for 4. They had 4 misses on fourth down.
Well, they had. I think there was a couple of major turnovers, and then a number of fourth down lack of conversions, and then a number of drops by the receivers as well. And so it just you could kind of see, look up back at the film, that the team just could every time it kind of came to one of those higher leverage plays or tipping points, which ended up on the short end of the stick there. But it certainly felt like, if you look at the receivers, I think Lamar has a much better set of receivers this year than he did in 2019. And I obviously the last couple of years haven't counted because of injury, and teams done such a good job and Lamar and not getting injured despite half the league quarterbacks being injured this year. So.
All right. Did you want to talk about anything else? One question I did want to ask you about was whether or not you really believe in any of the notion that the Ravens would have been better off not getting a bye.
I think this is a little bit of PTSD in the fan base. It's just that it's collective memory. But I like to think that we're 1-0 in the wild card, by getting to the next round here. And I see no scenario where we would have been better off. Team has a lot of injuries. I think there's a number of people that are healing, and we'll see which game Andrews comes back for. I think that'll be a very interesting thing to see if they're able to get him back for the divisional game. I think it's very likely he'll be back by the championship game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a pretty good chance of that. All right. Well, Craig, always a pleasure to talk football with somebody who's engaging and just has a new idea they bring forward. Tell folks where they can talk football with you online. Okay.
I am on Twitter at Dr. Tanio, DRTANIO.
All right. Outstanding. Other folks out there, if you'd like to be on a film study short, just like Craig, hit me up with a DM. They're always open on Twitter. I'd love to talk to you. And I get back very quickly to people who suggest a show to me. Craig, how long did it take me to respond to you when you sent me something?
Hours. So, okay. That was great.
And that's probably a little longer than normal. If I'm sitting at my computer, I'll respond right away when I hear something like this. So we got a lot of good shorts coming up this week because it's been an off week. Aaron Schatz will be on the show on Monday. Take a look for that one in terms of the feel-good DeVoa stories of the Ravens for DVOA. Sorry, I have to be good about that. Stories of 2023. He takes us through those, and got some other good ones as well. There's one out on cap and draft capital resources and a new method to evaluate those that came out on Saturday if you want to look back. But Craig, really appreciate having you on.
All right. Thanks, Ken.
And we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.